As we are winding down our series of 5 episodes before another break, this episode was a must squeeze in before we do. He's going to teach us how to sell better than Amazon. Yes, and you heard that right. That's the title of his book, and I am excited to learn more, especially as someone who does sell things on Amazon. So stay tuned for a great episode with Sam Mallikarjunan. Welcome back to Writing with Authors. I am Vincent Lanci, and to everyone viewing on, happy holidays and wishing you all a happy new year. Today, you're going to learn from a marketing and e-commerce guru. He will be also on That Entrepreneur Show, so stay tuned for a double dipper there. Let me talk about the book a little bit, and then we'll bring on our guest of honor. How to Sell Better Than Amazon explores the e-commerce applications of inbound marketing, a methodology of marketing that focuses on using content and engagement to create marketing that people love and therefore want to receive. This book focuses on how to avoid a price war by focusing on the research phases of the consumer buying cycle and how to model an e-commerce business to focus on increasing the lifetime value of customers through persona-targeted marketing campaigns. I'm excited to learn your writing journey. Sam, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. And for what it's worth, I'm an Amazon seller as well. The book was ironically a bestseller on Amazon. So
excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing all about it. Congratulations on that success. Now let's introduce yourself to everyone who's tuning in today.
My name's Sam Mallikarjunan. I'm the CEO now at OneScreen.ai. Before this, I was at a company called HubSpot for about 8 years from the early days, which is where I wrote the book. Longer story than we have time for. My job title in the book has me at a different company. I quit HubSpot for 87 days. Don't ask how many shares I lost that I had to invest, but yeah, think twice before quitting a company to go work at an agency in Tennessee. We'll do that story another day.
The lessons learned will be prevalent on That Entrepreneur. So on that side, we can already see that. So be sure to tune in and get the motivation you need to push through. But as far as today, Sam, why did you become a published author? What led you to do it?
The need to give people like something comprehensive that they could read through that would help them understand where we were coming from. Because inbound marketing was just kind of gaining adoption. Like we literally had to explain to CEOs what a search engine was before we could teach them how to do SEO. And like Twitter was something your nephew did, not something a serious business did. And it was the same with e-commerce, except the difference is the B2B world adopted inbound faster because they were having so much pain. The B2C world, the e-commerce world, was growing consistently because e-commerce turns out is a good idea and it just wasn't very competitive for a long time. So much like we had the inbound marketing book written by the founders of HubSpot, we wrote the inbound commerce book to try and explain to people that, if you want to fight a never-ending war for the lowest possible price on the internet, good luck. But if you want to build a more sustainable business, you have to think a little bit more broadly, like the B2B companies had.
I love the advice, and I think it's something that can help almost everyone tuning in today as we are in this digital age. Brick and mortar, they're not as prevalent anymore, especially with COVID that just passed or hopefully is passing soon. But now let's talk more about your latest book.
So How to Sell Better Than Amazon, the latest book is, I'll spoil it for you essentially. The details are in there. But what Amazon is not good at doing is helping people make decisions on things that require education, content, subjectivity. They have a massive catalog of things. They've added the Amazon choice button. That's about as close as they've gotten. Right. The other thing they're not good at is solving for lifetime value. So they're always going to have the cheaper price, but upsell, cross-sell, resell, can you get better at understanding that if somebody bought, screws, maybe they also need a drill, maybe they also need, because what they're trying to do is build a deck. Right. They don't actually want to buy tools. It's like a big box store versus a specialty store. Right. So that's the general theme of the book. You'll note it's not called How to Sell More Than Amazon, or we'd be doing this interview from my mountain lair in the Pacific. But you can sell better than Amazon by one, being focused on the research phases of the buyer's journey, creating that content, helping people make decisions, and two, being really good at monetizing longer term relationships by understanding the context of what people are trying to do.
I love the value that you're providing to people. You're filling a need. Advice for everyone out there: if you're looking to start a business, try to solve a need, and he certainly is. I'm looking forward to learning more about this process on both of these episodes. But as far as writing, What advice can you give to our fellow writers out there or our aspiring writers out there to help them on their journey?
I don't know what percentage of your guests pretend like this was a great experience. This was awful. It was awful. Hundreds of hours of work, and then arguing with an editor who wasn't a subject matter expertise, and then working with my co-author, Mike Ewing and stuff like that. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. But it was very rewarding. Ironically, I taught at Harvard. I've given keynote speeches, done all this kind of stuff. The fact that you're an author is somehow more impressive to everybody, even though like the content may be more updated in other mediums like a blog or webinar or something. So it's very personally satisfying. Less personally satisfying is the fact that my wife wrote a book that outsold me, but that's a different story. But it was tough. It was tough, especially because there's so much we had to share. There's so many details and nuances that we really wanted to cram in there. And honestly, the biggest challenge was figuring out what not to say, because otherwise it would turn into a textbook, and only I want to read textbooks.
And that is a great point you brought up there. And we can refer to my first book. I can resonate this. Left for Dead is my longest book by far. Before edits, it was over 60,000 words. And just cutting things. That quarrel inside of, is this important enough to keep in the book? Does this belong in the book? Even though it's great info. And like you said, hours and hours have been spent on that material. We have to cut it because it may not be right to the point. Can you agree with that?
It's one of my biggest complaints with business books. So I walk every morning and I try and listen to business books generally on Audible. And my biggest complaint is that for the most part, it's probably something that could have been an ebook or a really long blog article. And then they filled it out with a bunch of filler crap and examples to try and justify publishing it as a book. And we really didn't want to do that. And that's my biggest complaint. My biggest point for authors is nobody has ever complained that your book is too short. And if they are going to complain about that, you're more than welcome to write a follow-on book. But it's really hard to get through, books where the premise is done in the first 50 pages, and now you've got 400 pages left of nonsense examples that you really didn't need.
I love it. And the writing world, it is a journey. It has its challenges, but I can agree with him. It is certainly rewarding once you get to that milestone, holding the book in hand. I can remember when my first books came the first time and just seeing it, looking at the back, seeing my picture on it. It was just a lot of accomplishment, and having a book does weigh a lot of weight in certain areas. Like you said, now I think I learned from the beginning thinking, oh, I'll sell all these books, make a ton of money. No, that's not what the book is going to really be about. It is a great business card for me. It is a great book exchange thing. I'm sure we'll do one as well. My guests come on. I've got a sweet bookcase in the living room with all my guests that have come on the show and done a trade. But with me, my personal goals is to be speaking in the schools and for clubs and organizations. So this book is going to get me through the door to speak and add value through my books, something I'm very passionate about with this book. And I know you have the passion on your subject area too. You're filling a huge need, as I said. But are there any plans for another book coming up? Are we done with this? What's up?
So there weren't, but I think there will be another one, because I'm fascinated by the generative AI tools that have come out. So because there are literally thousands of hours of me online speaking and teaching, and hundreds and hundreds of pages of articles and stuff like that,
Yep.
the AI things can be really well trained to write like me. And I'm really, really interested to see, just like everything else in the world, the easier it gets for everybody, the more commoditized it gets. Just cranking out copy is now actually pretty easy. So I'm really interested to see, can I use one of those generative AI tools to create a book that's really, really interesting and value additive in a world in which, if I don't do that, like just writing a book on any given topic is now going to be, a week's worth of effort. So like, can I make something really interesting? So I don't know what form that's going to take yet, but I am going to try and write a book using the new generative AI platforms to see if I can prove that authors are still needed.
I love it. Well, I look forward to seeing everything you accomplish and learning more from you about the AI side and your entrepreneurial journey soon on That Entrepreneur Show. I would now like to ask you for your contact info, where they can find your book, where they can find more about your company, all things.
Absolutely. So you can find, if you Google anything close to Mallikarjunan, you'll find me. I own the website. It's shockingly easy to SEO for that. You can find us at inboundcommerce.com, or feel free to go online and buy the book on Amazon because I just love the irony of them sending me commission checks. So feel free.
I had the books on the website for a while, but then after a while, it was during COVID too. I couldn't compete with an overnight ship. So I left the Amazon options always open. If you want it right now, go ahead and get it. Thank you so much for an awesome episode. I'm glad we were finally able to nail down a time. And I look forward to doing your next interview too. To all my writers out there, thanks for tuning in. I am going to keep this YouTube series going as long as I can. And I've been able to connect with so many great authors along the way. Until next week, have a great day. Take care, man.
Thanks for having me.